Pam Bondi is incriminating Donald Trump once again. Now let's keep in mind, when it comes to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, Pam Bondi did not just break the law in individual time by not honoring the deadline, by not fully releasing the files on December 19th. Pam Bondi is still breaking the law every single day, and an unearthed, resurfaced, leaked clip is showing exactly why. We are going to get into it all, why Donald Trump is once again having big problems with his Epstein cover-up, which has failed miserably. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. And before we get into Bondi, I want to start with the latest Epstein news of the day and how Robert Garcia is responding to it going into the new year. And that brings us to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who had this to say in a New York Times report, and of course, that clip of Robert Garcia. The New York Times report that Trump yelled at Marjorie Taylor Greene, telling her, "My friends will get hurt if the Epstein files are released," and told her the Epstein victims had done nothing to merit the honor of meeting him. And Robert Garcia is responding to this cover-up at large in this clip right here.
We're getting an enormous amount of sloppiness. We're getting files that are being overly redacted. We're getting other files where survivors' names are actually mentioned. And yet, who's not being, of course, redacted? We have to look at all the files in front of us and see who is being protected. There's also, in this case, very seriously, as we know, names of co-conspirators that are possibly being protected and hidden by Pam Bondi and by the FBI and the DOJ. That is incredibly concerning. And so we're going to expose survivors, but protect co-conspirators and pedophiles. That is, right now, Donald Trump's Department of Justice. And I'm so glad that the American public is finally seeing that this is a massive White House cover-up.
I know we talked about it in an earlier video about Marjorie Taylor Greene and what she is alleging that Donald Trump said on that screaming phone call. And I totally believe every word of it. It would be very difficult for me to believe everything Marjorie Taylor Greene ever said in any other instance. But when it comes to Donald Trump screaming on a phone call, I completely buy that. And this also seems to track around the same day. What did Donald Trump say? Like he blew his pipe or something? Remember the day he couldn't speak? And it was kind of around this release. It's certainly possible that could have been the day. So a lot of this tracks. Usually don't believe Marjorie Taylor Greene, but a lot of this tracks. And on what Robert Garcia had to say, why it's so important to what's going on with Pam Bondi, is we need more Democrats reiterating this point. It's something that Eric Swalwell has done. Ro Khanna did it on night one, saying that he would press charges against Pam Bondi. But to me, knowing that this is a larger operation, as was Epstein's criminal cabal, we have to let every single person involved know that they will be held accountable. If you so much as get Pam Bondi a cup of coffee, as I continue to reiterate, you are violating the law. You and the rest of the DOJ apparatus that is there to serve Donald Trump is violating the law. And we know that this cover-up is obviously taking on this very political path, and it was always destined with Donald Trump. But I think, before we get into the unearthed Bondi clip, I think it's very important to hear what Donald Trump most recently said about Epstein, because it kind of colors everything happening right now.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his. But everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. And as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago, this is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here, he'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing.
The Trump-Clinton thing is very interesting because obviously the DOJ is doing whatever Donald Trump wants, but maybe they have their own strategy, and this is important to what we're going to see from Pam Bondi. Their strategy is, okay, let's show a bunch of photos of Bill Clinton and say, look, the Democrats, you love Bill Clinton, which I don't love Bill Clinton. If Bill Clinton was committing crimes as Jeffrey Epstein, he should be thrown in jail. It's that simple. But what they're not realizing that they're doing is telling a broader story. What Donald Trump wants you to believe is that we should just move on from Epstein. Kash Patel said that there were no co-conspirators. Pam Bondi putting out photos of Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton and other powerful men only leads us to believe that there's more co-conspirators and there needs to be transparency. We're not just talking about Donald Trump when we're talking about a broad release of the Epstein files. We're talking about holding everyone involved to account. Now, we just started to think that was Donald Trump more so, of course, because there's a billion photos of him and Epstein Epstein, and also because he was so insistent on not releasing these files. But that really contradicts what Pam Bondi said in this unearthed clip from just a decade ago.
Again, we try to respond as quickly as possible. The public has a right to know. It's all about transparency in government, but some requests are voluminous, so it depends on the request. But we do our best to almost drop everything and comply with public records requests as soon as possible here in my office, and that's what I can speak for.
Bulwark founder Sarah Longwell wrote on Twitter, 2025 Pam Bondi should take some notes from 2011 Pam Bondi, as she tweeted out that clip as she was the Attorney General of Florida. Yeah, Pam, we just want transparency. That's it. This isn't political. And so often, Republicans are so willing to just give away the game whenever they talk for extended periods of time. And this is one of them. You know, when they talk about how Democrats are politicizing this, and Democrats are just now caring about Epstein because it hurts Donald Trump. One, it's an admission that it hurts Donald Trump. Two, it's an admission that you fundamentally view this as something that's political. That's not the case. Democrats want justice for survivors. They want justice for victims. They want these people to be held accountable. And not only because it is these leaders of our society, it seems, who are all deeply involved with this, one, Epstein cover-up, but also criminal cabal. But two, there are a lot of big institutional players here. Harvard University seemed to have really clear and close connections with Jeffrey Epstein. JP Morgan Chase seemed like they were dug in on making sure that they could, in their words, sanitize Epstein's bank accounts as he was committing these crimes. And while he was doing so, so much money was being moved around. And one, that's horrible, and the people who did that and were like outwardly talking about it should be held accountable. That's obvious. But two, if that was happening then, what leads us to believe in any world it's not happening now? And not that I'm the biggest fan of the surveillance state that Donald Trump wants to build, but if financial institutions are not being properly scrutinized by government entities so that this doesn't happen or can slip through the cracks or could just be covered up for decades, there needs to be more regulation of financial entities. Like, I think we can all agree on this. Banks should pay, right? If giant financial institutions that made, what was the number that I saw? I don't want to go too crazy with this. I think it was 93. I don't want to say 93 billion because it seems like an absurd number, but it could be true. I think it was $93 billion. Sorry to be throwing out a random number like on Donald Trump, but I do believe it was $93 billion. In 2025, banks across America made in overdraft fees. And that seems a little crazy, but 93 billion. I believe that was the number. I want to say it was. If it was 3 billion, it's still a fucking absurd amount. Stealing from people who have their accounts overdraft, right? Take more than is in there. There's not a lot of people with a lot of money, and banks are profiting billions of dollars off of them. So these same financial institutions will screw you in whatever way possible, but when it comes to helping a pedophile and a criminal, we let them get off the hook? Banks have gotten off the hook for everything forever. That's a completely different conversation, but these institutions need to be looked at. All that to say, a bit of a tangent, Pam Bondi, if her idea is that posting lots of photos of Bill Clinton and celebrities will get us to go, oh my God, maybe we should talk about these people instead of Donald Trump, this is fundamentally misunderstanding what your media strategy should be. That's another time that you see these Republicans give away the game. As when Megyn Kelly says, oh, this was a PR disaster, such a PR disaster, oh, the PR is terrible. PR for what? Your relationship with pedophiles? You can't spin that. That's not gonna happen. These people are insane. They view this as a media game, not people's lives. And they clearly don't care. They make it very obvious to us that they don't care. But again, Pam Bondi saying, well, we want transparency and we need it as fast as possible in 2011 is like, yeah, Pam, obviously. That's what people advocate for. That's what people want. Why don't you? Doesn't make a lot of sense. But like I said, it is very telling of what they think they can accomplish versus what they actually are by showing the photos and releasing the photos that they are, because it's very strategic what they're trying to do. Even Donald Trump's own White House communication staffers were tweeting photos of Bill Clinton. So that's how it's been organized, because the messaging apparatus of the DOJ, as we know, the Twitter account at least, but maybe much more, has been taken over by Donald Trump's communication team. So what they're trying to communicate is don't talk about Donald Trump, talk about Bill Clinton. But that leads me to believe maybe we should just be talking more about other co-conspirators. Another thing that Donald Trump wants you to not talk about, think about, or believe is that this cover-up goes past just this administration. He wants you to think that this kind of just started. He also wants you to think that it just ended, right? Donald Trump, I think in his mind, believed when he signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, he was pissed about it. Sure, they literally shut down the White House and sent all the press out. But in my mind, Trump did that and he goes, Okay, now we don't have to talk about this anymore. No, I'm done. I've had it. That's not how Donald Trump said. Well, I've had it. I don't like it. Quite frankly, I've had it, and we don't like. We said we don't like it. It is a dog. And he probably thought it was over, but it's not. But Trump wants you to believe, although he doesn't want you to think necessarily that the cover-up is happening now. But if you do, it's just right now. That's it. It's the only time there's been a cover-up. It's just in this term. It's not true. Donald Trump has clearly been trying to cover up the relationship that he had with Jeffrey Epstein as a private citizen before he was even president, understanding that it was a social liability. But if so many other people were as well, if Steve Bannon was, if JP Morgan was, if other powerful players were looking to sanitize, and that's their word, the name of Jeffrey Epstein, why wouldn't Donald Trump also be trying to do so in his first term? That's a question that I continue to come back to. Where is the information about Donald Trump's work to cover up his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein in the first term? Because we already saw that email. U.S. Attorney, I wanted to flag this for you. Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell plane. I want to put it out there. Already exists in the ether. So where's the rest of that correspondence? Because we haven't even begun to nibble at that. Those conversations. There's a book published about Jeffrey Epstein. Netflix did a documentary. You think there were no emails? Zero? In Donald Trump's White House about that in his first administration? You didn't even think like, ooh, this isn't good. I hope they don't talk about Trump. What could that uncover? And then what would we be able to gather from those people? Those are the questions that we need to be asking. Those are the questions I'm going to be asking. That is what we're going to be continuing to press on with on this show, as you know. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Y'all, we have a new year coming up, and I want to know, throw me some comments. I'd love some ideas, or maybe some changes you want to see to the show. Should we be doing more live stream? Do you want to see more interviews, less interviews? Should I bring Adam on, Keith Edwards, do stuff with Midas Touch, Brian Tyler Cole? I don't know. More Don Lemon. I do a lot of Don Lemon. We love Don Lemon. I should probably have Don on this show. He's a busy guy, though. Let me know what you want to see in the new year. I'm very excited for it. We get some big stuff coming that I'm excited to share, but let me know. Until next time, I'll see you soon.